Hello everyone, Dibs here and welcome to the next Overwatch analysis video. We're going to be doing things a little bit differently today, and so instead of going through the video play by play, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be explaining exactly how Omnicoach works, and we're going to show you what it can do and how to use it yourself. So this is going to be a video on 3 different characters or 3 different heroes. It's going to be Pharah, Hanzo, and Lucio, and we're basically just going to go through everything that Omnicoach says about this video without even diving into the video itself, just to show you how accurate it could be and what it can do to help you improve. Alright, so let's get right down to it. We're going to first go over the hero-specific tips because I feel like all of these general tips for your gameplay overall is good to kind of like wrap up with. Right, so we're going to skip these key strengths, we're going to skip the most important tips first, and we're also going to skip the video navigation and we're going to go over that later. So we're going to scroll down here all the way down to the personal gameplay tips for each hero. So for Pharah, this mechanical skill tip, this is without me looking at any gameplay at all. There is this tip where it says that you seem to be doing a lot of damage with no follow-up on kills. Are you following the focus targets being made on voice comms? Are focus calls being made? Are you calling out on low health characters or players for your team to follow up on? Are you having trouble hitting consecutive direct hits? So I feel like this is also a very general, I would say a general problem when it comes to Pharah's. Trying to doing a lot of damage basically and not getting any kills. This can do a lot with just spamming into the shields, spamming into the group without any focus fire, and also the lack of communication with your team, right? Because the thing is, like, if you have, let's say you have a Widowmaker and a Pharah, and the Widowmaker makes somebody weak, right? And then the thing is, that person may be out of your line of sight, right? And you're not paying attention to them, and yet you're still spamming into the enemy team when they're getting heals. So the lack of focus fire can be one thing when it comes to Pharah not getting a lot of kills. But not only that, it could also be because of the fact that you're not getting a lot of direct hits. You could be doing a lot of splash damage. You may not be doing, getting those direct hits to finish off the character or the players on the enemy team. So there's a couple of things that might be a problem for you when it comes to that. Not exactly sure why that would happen, but we're going to take a look at the video and see at this location why you did not get that kill, or what this tip is trying to talk about. So it's about here, got them low, doing a lot of damage. Yeah, I did see a lot of damage. I saw that one target was very low. I would say it wasn't your fault entirely because of the fact that you were pretty far away, right? You were just spamming into them when they were coming in. So you were doing a lot of damage, which was good, right? But the thing is like, in order to get a lot of kills as Pharah, instead of just spamming into the enemy team from a really long distance, what you could do is you can change your position to try to make it so that you're directly on top of them, so that whenever they get low, they don't have a chance to escape. So that's one thing that you can do to look at the video as well as think about the tip at the same time. Because if you just have this tip by itself, there's not really much that you can do. But you have this video here that can tell you exactly or show you exactly what's going on, right? Oh, the reason as to why, you weren't able to get the kill was because of the fact that you were, too far away. So be a little bit closer to your enemy, just a little bit, depending on what they have. If they have a Widowmaker or a hit scan, you don't want to be too close to them. But of course, it depends on what they're running. If they're playing McCree, you don't want to get too close. Soldier or any other hit scan, yes, definitely get close to them so you can, blow them up in their face. So yeah, that's one tip that Omnicoach has. I feel like you swapped off after you got killed once, and that's probably a good idea if you feel like you're not doing much as Pharah. All right, let's talk about game sense right here. So McCree is very deadly to you. Try to use your environment to your advantage. Make it hard for him to hit you by abusing buildings. McCree is also a very slow character. It is hard for him to aim to dodge your rockets effectively. If you can, try to spam a few rockets in his general direction. A direct hit will often send him running immediately. Yes, this is true. You do not want to be going against McCree or up in his face, because if you are really close to him, what happens is that he can get a flash on you and you end up just dying, right? Of course, you don't want to be getting hit by his flash, so you kind of want to stay mid or far range from him so he hasn't able to use his flash ability to kill you. But also, you don't want to be too far, because if you're too far, he's going to be able to dodge your rockets from far distance, right? Because they're easy to predict. So you kind of want to be in the mid range, but not too close to him. And I feel like this is one thing that's really good. But how come this tip came up? So we're going to take a look and see what's going on. Oof. I see. Yeah, so that was bad positioning on that part, or at least that grenade wasn't very great. It kind of pushed you backwards. It was a good one, but your positioning was bad, right? I guess you didn't realize that there was like a wall behind you, and that would have booped you far away, yes. But you also would have been able to back up towards the stairs and then just go to safely. But I feel like a little bit more positional awareness would help you to kind of figure out, where are you on the map and what is behind you and what is close to you, so that you can kind of like wave around and use a grenade more efficiently. All right, and next one talks about swapping heroes if you're having a hard time. Zenyatta's Discord Orb greatly punishes Pharah and makes her even more vulnerable to hitscan players. So yes, I did talk about it. I feel like you did really well here because you did swap off. I feel like you only played for, what, 1.5 minutes for Pharah. And you ended up, yeah, because if you're having a lot of trouble, then just swap off Pharah because of the fact that, you know, hitscan plus Zen is equal to a dead Pharah most of the time. So I'm glad that you did swap off, but this is a good tip to know if, you know, if you don't know this already, right? If you're having trouble on a specific hero, don't keep trying to push that hero. There's always a lot of different things that you can, or different heroes that you can play to kind of like figure out what you can do better against the enemy composition. All right, so here is talking about team synergy. We're going to quickly go over here, or quickly go over this. So there is an Ashe on the enemy team. Look out for the coach gun. So basically it just talks about how you can go against Ashe, a counter to Ashe, or basically how effective Ashe is to a Pharah, but what you can also do against an Ashe to kind of like counterplay her counter to you, because, you know, Ashe is a really good counter to Pharah, right? 2 headshots to the head, or 2 headshots with Ashe basically means a dead Pharah, and it's not that hard to get a headshot with Ashe. All right, but the thing is, you can get really close to her. You can fire a rocket, use your grenade, push yourself towards her, get there in the face, and after that, then you can kill her. That's what you can basically do to almost all hit scans that don't have a stun, aka McCree. So basically, you just want to get in their face as fast as you can, and just try to keep shooting, barraging rockets at them because it makes them really hard. It knocks them around all over the place and it creates a lot of pressure so they don't get free shots on you as Pharah. And this enemy team has a McCree, right? He is one of your main counters due to his hitscan revolver, blah, 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 blah. Especially useful against McCree. Even if he flashbangs you mid-jump animation, you are going to be in the air already, thus making it harder for him to follow up his shot. So there is a ingrained tip in here. It says the best way of dealing with hitscan damage heroes is concussive blasting towards their face to ensure a direct hit, then boost above them with your jump jet. And yes, that is correct, because the thing is, if you boost yourself towards them, it makes them have to aim horizontally, and then when you fly up and you use your jump jets, they have to all of a sudden aim upwards at the same time. Now this is really good against McCree, because if you get really close to his face and you shoot him, and then he flashbangs you when you are using your jump jet, what happens is that you get stunned, but then your velocity keeps going upwards. So you can get stunned and you can be still flying up in the air after using your jump jets when you get close to him. So that's really good. But you just got to make sure that you should try not to get hit by the flash. But if you do ever get hit by a flash, just make sure, or if you're prepared to get hit by a flash, make sure you have your jump jets so you can, you know, also be moving at the same time while it hits you. You don't want to be a sitting duck when that happens. And there's also these exercises when it comes to jump jet and hover efficiency. It basically tells you how to practice your jump jet, or practice how to use your hover and how to time it. Allows you to do this kind of boost. So you can use a rocket, you can shoot a rocket at the ground, and also use a jump jet, or use your jump jet to fly even higher, giving you a really, really big boost. And also it tells you kind of like how to, or explains to you how to use your jump jets and how to use your fuel efficiently, and how to continuously stay in the air over and over and over and over again. I feel like that's one of the hardest things when it comes to playing Pharah, or at least when learning her. It's kind of like muscle memory, right? You just got to tap it, you just got to figure out like 1, 2, you know, you just kind of get into the rhythm doing it. It's kind of like when you play Tracer, right? You kind of get in the rhythm of how many blinks you have and how many blinks it takes to get to one area. It's the same thing for almost all the other heroes that have this type of rhythm thing with them. I think when it comes to damage suffered, or healed doesn't matter as much. Damage suffered, I would say, yeah, damage suffered does kind of help a lot, because if you are playing a lot of Pharah and you suffer a lot of damage, then that means it's probably a good idea for you to kind of like swap off the hero and play something else, right? So I feel like out of all of these, your kill death wasn't that great when it came to Pharah. So I would say, I would say this basically tells me if you're not really good at dealing with hitscan on the enemy team. If there is hitscan on the enemy team and you're playing Pharah, either A, you should try practicing and try to, you know, make use, or try to like use your positioning a little bit better, or just swap off and don't even try to play Pharah, because you might end up losing the game because of that. You know, trying to like push your head into a wall or something that doesn't work for you, you know, is not really a great way to learn. The best way for you to learn is to kind of like, you know, it's good for you to kind of like suffer a little bit, but then don't keep doing the same thing over and over again. Try to like find a different way to deal with the problem instead. That could either be A, swapping off, or B, practicing your positioning, right? So, but anyways, that's going to be about it for Pharah. We actually went a lot. We talked a lot about Pharah stuff here, even though you only did play her for 1 minute. So there's a lot of stuff that you know, that even though there's a lot of stuff that doesn't apply to what is happening in the video, a lot of the tips that they talk to you about, like if you think about it, if you just expand on what the game is telling you or what Omnicoach is telling you, you can create your own tips and figure out exactly what you can do to kind of improve, not in just this situation, but in a lot of other situations that may come up in the future. So that's why I feel like Omnicoach is really good at doing that. But I feel like, yeah, this is going to be talking about Hanzo, which is the meat of this video. I'm assuming, yeah, you played from 2 minutes to 16 minutes. So you played basically Hanzo most of the time. So we're going to dive into this and see what we can do. And yeah, let's go into Hanzo. All right, so let's quickly go over all of these details. There's a lot of them here. I don't want to take too much time going through all of them, so I'm just going to skim through it and basically talk shortly about it. So you do not use your Sonic Arrow frequently for 25 seconds. Try to keep it on the map whenever possible. Yes. You don't, like, even if you, a lot of the times it's good to kind of predict where the enemy is going to be coming from, but you should always be trying to use your Sonic whenever you can. If you know for a fact that, like, let's say you want to fight, right? If you win a fight and you have your Sonic Arrow off cooldown, then of course you don't want to throw it right then because it's completely useless. The enemy team is coming back from spawn, and if you use it now, it's not going to show you anything because they're not going to be at that location. They're going to be coming from spawn. So what you want to do is just, like, whenever the fight is about to start, just throw your Sonic Arrow. If you don't know exactly where they are, but you know that they're going to be coming in timing wise, just throw your Sonic Arrow. It doesn't really matter where, as long as it's kind of like somewhere where you kind of guess where they're going to be coming from. Always use up your Sonic Arrow. Always use up your abilities as Hanzo. Never have any of them on cooldown, or never have any of them on cooldown. Wait, was it? Never have any of them off cooldown. You know, during the fight and at the end of a fight. Always use them. Just like whenever, even if it doesn't feel like a good time to use it during a fight, if it's during a fight, just use it if you have to, right? It's better than not using it at all, in my opinion. Sometimes, like, people say you waste your abilities, but it's not technically wasting if you're using it in a fight. You may not use it effectively, yes, but using it ineffectively is better than not using it at all, because it's not like you're spending your ult on that, right? You basically have that on like 8 seconds or 10 seconds, and you can just keep spamming it basically. So, but anyways, use non-busy times to take good positions and regroup with your team. Check back a bit. Use the downtimes to think about the enemy composition. Yeah, that's really good as well. So I feel like this could be that you may be like, after you want to fight, you could just be sitting around and not doing much. But that's important for almost every hero. Yeah, if you want to fight, gain position, especially as a sniper. When it comes to snipers, you want to gain your position. Positioning is much more important than anything else when it comes to sniping. I would say, positioning and aiming. Positioning and aiming. Cooldown management, I wouldn't say too much. But the thing is, like, when it comes to positioning on snipers, like, you want to be able to shoot the enemy team from an area where they won't be able to reach you. So right here, you're like on the low ground. It's all right. It's not bad, but I feel like you can take the high ground onto the top right, and you could be shooting them from there instead, right? Because if you're here, yes, you might have a decent angle on them, but it's just like, they're going to be able to get to you without using any cooldowns, and that's not what you want to be doing as a sniper. As a sniper, you always want to be somewhere up there, somewhere to the side or to the offside, where the enemy team has to use a lot to get to you. Like right here. Yeah, this is good. Right here. This is exactly what you want to be doing, right? You're throwing it at the cart. You are backing up really, really far away. You're getting a different angle, which is really, really nice, right? And you're not too close to the point where they have to get, or where they can get to you. And you're backing up to a farther range. Yes, don't be afraid to use the high ground here. Like, look at where this Widow is. This Widow is on the high ground, getting a lot of kills actually. Pretty good. But I wouldn't say this is a bad spot either, because you're kind of like poking at a good angle. But you didn't really have to jump down either, in my opinion. Like, you just keep spamming to that small entrance. But it looks like your Widow was able to pop off. But yeah, I would say just don't be afraid to use weird angles when it comes to snipers, aka Hanzo or Widow. The main thing is, be in a position where the enemy team has to use cooldowns to get to you. It doesn't matter if they can get to you. The thing is, if they use cooldowns to get to you, that's already good enough. Because once they get to you, and if your team is able to follow up, or if you're able to kill them or deal a lot of damage to them, they can't escape, right? So that's the main important thing when it comes to positioning for snipers. This talks about 4-player advantage, wiping the enemy. I feel like that's a really kind of like a basic one where, you know, if you are in an advantage, just try to push up, try to kill the enemy. Make sure that you're able to get as much ult charge and also deny as much ult charge from the enemy team by wiping them and finishing them off. And also it makes them, you know, respawn or group up a lot slower, so they won't be able to push in for the next fight. 2-player disadvantage, consider if you need to fall back or be more passive until the team gets kills, unless it's overtime. Yes, that is correct. Let's take a look at a few of these fights and see if you backed up or not. All right, so this is the one where you're okay. The Ryan's pushing up. Make it a little bit louder. Yeah, so you're down a Mercy, and they're popping ults. So yeah, now is a good time. I feel like it's a really good time for you to back up. Yeah, yeah, definitely a good time. Because the thing is, like, when your Mercy was down, I think it would have been okay for you to back up already. Because your Mercy dying and then popping ults was really like a big sign for your team that you guys are going to lose this fight, right? So right here, Ryan charges in, Mercy dies. You're getting really weak here. Bob comes in. And I feel like at this point, if the enemy team is using ults after they have an advantage, you should be backing up. But in your Brig did use her ultimate to kind of keep you guys alive, but I feel like in this situation, first of all, besides winning or losing the fight, I feel like you should be on high ground here. There's no point for you to be on low ground here, right? That's one thing that I didn't talk about right here. You don't have to be down here. Like, the Tracer can easily jump on you, the Reinhardt can get to you, and if Bob gets spawned here, he's gonna be within your line of sight. So if you're up here and you're shooting where Widow and Hanzo are normally supposed to be, you won't have any problem dealing with this kind of stuff, right? So, because right now, just think about it. Your Mercy is dead. Right here, there's so much stuff going on the point. You get hit by a Dynamite, right? You get hit by a Fire Strike. There's Bob in here. There's like there's too much stuff going on, dude, right? You don't want to be here. You just be on the high ground. Always use the high ground as much as you can. And you won't have to deal with all of this stuff that's going on. And in this case, if there's so much stuff going on low ground and they're busy dealing with it, you could be on the high ground and perhaps you can get a pick. Maybe you'll get a pick in the back line, and maybe you make it an even fight. If you make it an even fight, then you don't really necessarily have to back off, right? So a lot of it just comes down to positioning when it comes to snipers. You don't want to be up in their face whenever you can. And I do know that this tip is about game sense, but in reality, you could kind of, you know, counter what they're doing by, or you can basically, instead of backing up, you can use the high ground to kind of like escape while you shoot at the same time, instead of having to deal with all the stuff that's happening on the ground. So anyways, let's go on to the next one. We're talking about, we finished the game sense, and now we're going to the positioning for Hanzo. Hanzo is all about positioning, so are snipers, or snipers in general are all about positioning, I feel like. So we'll see how this goes. Watch your health, you are already below half. Try to lunge away and heal up with your supports by picking up HP packs. Yeah, positioning, fight around health packs whenever you can. This doesn't really have much to do with high ground, but it does talk about lunging away and fighting around health packs. I feel like fighting around health packs is good for you as Hanzo, because when you're playing Hanzo, you are somebody who can one-shot the enemy. So it doesn't matter if they play around health packs, but if you play around health packs, right? If you get hit by them and you're low on health, you can grab the health pack, right? And you can kind of survive longer. But if the enemy is playing around a health pack, it doesn't even matter to them if you get headshots, right? Just imagine, a McCree comes up to you. Okay, you're playing around a health pack. You shoot an arrow to his head, he's dead. You can't even use the health pack, right? So the health pack is really good for you, but not really good for anybody that's going against you unless they're a tank. All right, let's try this one. You got pick here, you got a pick here, which is nice, but got heavily damaged quickly after it. Pay attention to your positioning, depend on your range advantage. Try to be unpredictable and change spots quickly after kills so the enemies will have a hard time punishing you. Yes, it's almost like almost all snipers. Both Widowmaker and Hanzo are the best when it comes to repositioning very quickly after getting a kill. You don't want to be in the same place after getting a kill. After you get a kill, move your positioning, because most likely than not, the enemy team is going to be calling out your positioning. Right? They're gonna be like, oh, Hanzo is on bridge after they died from it, right? And if they're calling that out and you're still there, they're gonna see you. So what you should do is to counter that by switching your position and be like, oh, Hanzo's not there anymore. He moved in a different area, right? So like right here, yeah, I mean, you got a kill. Just go on to high ground, right? This is just coming, it's always just coming back to high ground. Now, this is one thing that has been popping up for me that I noticed. You're not using high ground ever. You're never using high ground. Snipers always love high ground. It makes it harder for the enemy team to get you, and also you have more sightlines. Just remember that. High ground is your best friend as a sniper. So, but anyways, we're moving on to ultimate usage, and which is your dragons. Consider helping the next team fight with an early ultimate into the enemy team if you are doing well. This will help in zoning or cutting them apart, hurting any part of the enemy team to a position where you can deal with them more easily. If you are doing well and charging ultimates quickly, feel free to use dragons this way. Yes, it's also really good for you to use that. But a lot of the times though, if you're playing with the Zarya, you kind of save it for the Zarya graph. But like if you see the enemy just coming in and grouping up like on the payload, and they're all coming in from one direction, you can just throw it onto the payload just to kind of like split them. And once they're split, your team can just push in and deal with them at the same time.
One on top. Ash on top.
Alright, so the Hammond comes in. Alright. So yeah, I mean, you shouldn't be as scared to use it as well here. So let's just think about it. What happens if you are pushing towards from this area on this pillar, right? This is one long straight way. And if they are deep enough into it, you can just throw your dragon and they won't be able to escape it, right? So don't be afraid to just throw it whenever you need to gain an advantage when it comes to your positioning. You can save it for your Zarya graph if it's something that you guys are always doing constantly. But if you get your ultimate a lot faster than a Zarya and you just have dragons, you don't want to be sitting on it for too long. So don't be afraid to just throw it through long hallways where the enemy is going to be, or just throw it just so that splits them off. You can even you can just make a wall between the team, so they won't be able to like push past the dragons for a specific amount of time. That helps a lot as well. I would say the only thing that can actually counter your dragon is Zen Trance and Annonade. If the Annonades the Zen Trance, no one's gonna die from it. Basically what happens is that the healing out-heals your dragons, and there's not much you can do about that. Also, that was a little bit too far for you to throw your dragons. Just a little bit too far. So, in this case, I feel like you were getting distracted by the Tracer. And right here, your dragons were too far from the graph to be thrown. Because in order for your dragons to kill those in a Zarya graph when there's trans going on, it has to be dealing enough damage over time. It has to be hitting them for maybe about 2 to 3 seconds, and then after that it will overtake the amount of damage that, you know, gets healed by trans with your team also shooting it at the same time. But if the graph is so far away right here, just think about it. By the time you use your ultimate and your dragon hits them, you're only going to be doing damage to everything in the graph for about 1 second. And that's not enough for you to kill everything in the graph, right? So you want to be either A, close to the graph when it's, you know, being thrown, or B, don't throw your ultimate into the graph if you're too far, because it's not going to deal enough damage. Always be in position for you and your Zarya to do that combo right away. The farther you are, the harder it is for you to get into kills with your graph, or with the grab Hanzo. All right, and now this is the last one. When using your ultimate, it is usually best to try from a flanking position or when the fight has already started. Hanzo's ultimate has a very slow traveling time and can be very easily avoided. This gives your enemy more than enough time to hide and seek cover, try to shoot it down, angles an opponent isn't expecting, or better, combine it with the crowd control ability. Yep. One thing you can do is you can shoot it through walls. It's really nice if you're like next to a payload, right? If you're next to a payload and you know the enemy team is on the payload, what you can do is you can just shoot it through the wall and at the payload at an angle where you can kind of predict where the enemy team is going to be escaping from. So let me try to get an example right here. Okay, so think about it. If your team is here, right, and the enemy team is right in front of the payload, and the enemy team is pushing up towards your team this way, what you can do is, if you are in this position, if you are right underneath Pylon Terrace, or if you're inside Pylon Terrace, basically in this hallway to the left, and inside, what you can do is you can use your dragons. You can throw it either towards the payload on their side, or you can throw it towards the payload coming back towards this way, depending on where they're coming from. As long as you angle it correctly and they don't know where your dragons are coming from, they won't be able to see it coming through the wall in time, right? But now you have to project, where is the enemy team going to be moving towards? Are they going to be moving towards backwards, or are they going to be moving towards you? Most likely than not, it depends on their positioning. If they are already pushed up, they're gonna back up. However, if they are already all the way back there, they're gonna try to push up to avoid it. So it kind of allows you to kind of experiment on where you can throw your dragons from, but you don't want to be throwing your dragons where it's predictable. AKA, you don't want to be throwing it from here, because if you throw it from here, what happens is they can see it coming from a mile away, and they have time to react to it. But if you throw it right next to them, right next to the payload, and through a wall, they won't see where it's coming from. They'll be like, oh, where's it coming? Oh, there's dragons here already, and too late, they're dead, right? So be a little bit more sneaky with your dragons, or you can combo it with your Zarya ult. Be a little bit more, be a little bit more consistent with it when you're throwing it in with a graph. And a lot of the survivability stuff is about positioning. I feel like positioning and survivability are very, very much linked. Very much linked. You know, Like if you don't have good positioning, then you don't have good survivability. If you have really good positioning, then you have good survivability. And you basically, the amount of tips that you get for positioning is going to be about the same as the amount of tips that you get for survivability, because they go hand in hand basically. Like when you were going against the Zarya, yes, use your Stormbows right when you see her, but you died a little bit too quickly before you're able to do so. But against the Tracer, don't use your Stormbow. Try to get the headshot because then she won't be able to recall it, right? All right. Anyways, next to Team Synergy. Holy crap, that one has a lot. Team Synergy. Let's quickly just go over these. The McCree on the enemy team, you have the clear advantage as long as they play outside of the effective range. Yes. Put things short, you can kill the McCree a lot more easily if you have better positioning than him. AKA, use high ground, shoot him from far away, don't be in front of his face. If he gets in front of you, he's going to flash you and right click you and you're dead. That's it for McCree. Work on your Reinhardt. Work with your Reinhardt. Try to communicate with your ultimate statuses with your teammates. Reinhardt Shatter can be very easy Dragon Strike. I feel like it'll be better for you to, yeah, I guess you can use Dragon Strike with your Shatter. Most of the time though, I feel like if you get a good Shatter, you can just clean up without it, to be honest. You can just shoot people on the ground with your Stormbow, and if you have 5 people shooting and they're all down, they can't use any abilities, right? They can't counter it, they can't do anything. I feel like Shatter is more powerful a lot of the times than Grav, because when they're Graved, they can use abilities, right? They can trans, they can heal, they can do all this stuff, but if their entire team is shattered, they're just sitting there. They can't do anything. You get like two full seconds of just shooting into them, and they should be dead by then. If people are focusing them, they should be. All right, there's an Ana on the enemy team. Be careful with your strong kit. She can kill you in 3 shots. Yep. I feel like positioning can help you with that one. The enemy team has a Wrecking Ball. You have a slight advantage in this matchup. Hammond is really hard to deal with, but Hanzo is quite strong against him. Make sure you dodge his pile driver with your lunge, and unleash your storm arrows as soon as he starts shooting. Yes, that's good actually, because if he's rolling around, you can still use your storm arrow if you want. But once he slams onto the ground, it's really good for you to use your storm arrow because he has less acceleration and he's moving really slow, and you can get all that arrows into him. Enemy team has Orisa, burst down her shield. Yes, really good for you to get easy kills because of the fact that you are breaking shields of the Orisa that is protecting your team. Kind of basic, I feel, just against any tanks, to be honest. The enemy team is running a Tracer. Be ready to duel her often. This matchup boils down to pure mechanical skill. Try to make sure you get a headshot on the Tracer with your regular bow. Don't use your stone bow unless you feel like you have to. Because if you use your storm arrow and you hit her with it, even with the headshot, she can dodge it or she can recall it. Unless she is right in front of your face. If she is right in front of your face and you use your storm arrow, get a headshot and you melee her, she will die instantly. But typically, most of the times Hanzos do better against Tracer when they just shoot regular arrows and they can get a headshot. Would have won the enemy team. Okay, this one. Interesting one. Be careful with her. Generally, she has the advantage over you in this matchup because her shots are hit scan while your arrows are projectile. Yeah, maybe. It can go either way. You can try to offset this by using your sonic arrow so that you have more reliable pre-fire at her location. Yeah, exactly. You can also try to flank her from time to time, but apart from there's not much more to it. Yeah, use your storm arrow so that when she is about to peek, that's when you shoot your arrows so that by the time she peeks, the arrow is already there, right? But if in the peeking competition, if you peek out at the same time that the Widow is peeking, she's gonna win. So you want to make sure that you are watching her location before she peeks, right? So you have to have a sonic arrow there so that if you are already watching before she's peeking, you're at advantage. But if she is sitting there and waiting for you and you're about to peek, she has the advantage. So just make sure who's peeking first, and then you can see who has the advantage there. All right, that was the gist of the meat of the game. Mostly a lot of Hanzo stuff. Mostly it just boiled down to a lot of positioning and a lot of use of your abilities. And that's honestly, that's the truth. That's the truth of snipers. Positioning and aiming, mechanical skill is what makes good snipers, typically. So, but anyways, we're going to move on to Lucio. We're going to skip all the ones when it comes to ones that we already talked about, like 2-player advantage, right? Blah, 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 blah. Stuff like that. We already talked about that. You're getting damaged early, blah, 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 blah. Team synergy. All right. Let's talk about that one. Look at these. For synergy of Lucio and people on your team and also the enemy team. Alright, team synergy. Keep tabs on the Widowmaker's location and stay out of her line of sight to avoid being headshot. You can shoot at her direction to potentially mess up her aim. Not bad, yeah. You can basically spam at the Widow. Basically just shoot and make yourself annoying, basically. Alright, because if she's taking shots and she's trying to shoot people and it's annoying Lucio, you know, it's just like trying to shoot at her, then it creates a lot of pressure and you're just being annoying, right? And it makes her miss her shots a lot of the time. Sometimes you might have the opening to wall ride aggressively against Widowmaker. This can be useful when your team has other targets to focus. Yeah. I will say being aggressive on the Widowmaker as Lucio is pretty good, right? Because she has a hard time aiming when you're like when you're wall riding a lot, right? It makes it really difficult for her. So, anyways, next one is Widowmaker. You already did the Widowmaker. Zarya is the only threat to you when she has high energy charge. Apart from that, you shouldn't really worry about her that much. If you want to help your team finish her off quickly, you could always try to wait for the personal barrier to end. This will give you the opportunity to either move behind her to boop her into your team, or dive her to help dive with your speed aura. Yes, this is definitely true. It can be used on almost anybody. I like to do this on Reinhardt and also basically just the tanks. If there are bubbles that are down, just wall right behind them, boop the tanks or boop the off tanks into your team. And after that, then your team would just focus them down and kill them. I don't really do it that much as Lucio because I don't really play Lucio that much. But the same thing can go for Pharah, right? You can boop, you can use your Pharah, right? You can use the grenade, and you can just use the grenade to boop the enemy team into your team, and they can kill them all together like that. So that's another thing you can do with that. Use your Amp It Up and Speed Song to help your Reinhardt close the gaps and get within his effective range. Very, very useful actually. This is kind of like how Goats came around. Right? Instead of just using your Rein, you sped up your entire team into the enemy team. If you see an advantage, basically just use your Amp It Up, speed your team into the enemy team whenever you can. It did get nerfed recently though, but yes, that's what you want to do. If you see an advantage to finish off an enemy target, use speed for you and your team whenever you can. It's very useful. And that's basically it for Lucio. There's an aim practice one. There's also an aim practice one for Hanzo, I think. There's another one here. I think the aim practice one for Lucio isn't as important, but I feel like it's better for Hanzo. But yeah, set it up so you have 6 people walking around, not dealing damage to you, and consistently just try to get as much damage as you can. Yeah, simple one. This is how you would set it up for almost every other hero, to be honest, right? Anyways, yeah, I think that's going to be about it for this one. We're going to take a look at the overall tips at the very top. Your key strengths in this video. You got an early pick. As a sniper, you can easily get picks from good positions and if the enemies are not using shields well. Honestly, I feel like this kind of does sum it up. As a sniper, you can get picks from good positions. Good positions. We talked a lot about positioning, and I think that kind of hit it on the nail, that if you have good positions, then you can deal a lot of damage as Hanzo and Widowmaker, or as a sniper. But anyways, with the 3 most important tips, you have not been using your Sonic Arrow frequently in the last 25 seconds. Keep it on the map whenever possible. It offers extremely valuable information to you and your team to spot on enemy movements and adjust accordingly. Yeah, there were a few cases where you didn't use your Sonic Arrow. Don't be afraid to use your Sonic Arrow before a fight starts. And also don't be afraid to use your Sonic Arrow in the middle of a fight so you can see when reinforcements are coming through. Second tip, that's the most important. Keep using your lunge ability to maneuver around the map. Use it freely when not in combat to gain positional advantage, but try to use it tactically around team fights. Yes. Yeah, I guess you did die a lot without using your lunge, but getting in the fight or getting out of your spawn, that's kind of like a small thing. But yeah, use your lunge whenever it's on cooldown. I typically try to use it whenever I can, unless I am aiming at somebody. I use my lunge whenever I can, get to the high ground, and then when I start aiming at somebody, just keep shooting, and then once you start being shot at, or if you're trying to dodge like a projectile, then use your lunge to avoid it, or whether it's an ultimate or something like that. Your allies are getting killed, and you have Sonic Arrow ready. Try to support your team with Sonic Arrow. So a lot of these 2 tips kind of like are related together about using your Sonic Arrow and your lunge. Yeah, I think these most important tips were already talked about, but they are just about the ones that came up the most. Right, the Sonic Arrow came up the most, the lunge ability came up the most, and the Sonic Arrow, again, another one came up the most. So yeah, just try to use your Sonic Arrow whenever you can. Use your high ground with lunge. Use lunge to get the high ground quicker, and then try to shoot your enemies from above while using Sonic Arrow at the same time. And I think that kind of like sums up what was talked about the most in this VOD. So yeah, that's basically how I would use OmniCoach. Of course, I did take a little bit longer because I was explaining everything and trying to like put my own take on the tips itself. But typically, yeah, just reading through all of these tips, and it does really help you a lot. Because of the fact that I don't think I'm going to be able to go over all the video navigation because that's going to take way too long. But yeah, these are basically all the tips that happen in the game, or where the tips apply. But we basically just went over all the tips in the game, or all the tips in the VOD. It would probably take you about 30 minutes to read through all of them, and that's a lot faster than me explaining every single thing, in my opinion. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this one. It's kind of different. It's kind of different. I mean, I don't play Hanzo myself, so it's really interesting to see what kind of tips that they give. I mean, there's general tips that I know about snipers, and and they can apply to both Hanzo and Widowmaker. I do play Widowmaker, so I feel like a lot of the stuff that I talk about when it comes to Widowmaker does transfer over nicely to Hanzo. But yeah, just let me know what you guys think, and whether or not this kind of this kind of VOD review will help you. Especially if there is somebody that is not able to actually review your own VOD yourself. Like just think about whether or not this by itself, without me, would help you at all, right? So, but yeah, I mean, just give it a shot, try it out. This OmniCoach, I think it's actually really good. I did a really good job, explaining it. A lot of the stuff does come up over and over again, but that just tells you, if it comes up multiple times, that means that's something you need to work on, right? Because if it only happens once, like, oh, you only did this thing once, okay, well, it's not too big of a deal. But if you're like constantly doing the same thing over and over and over again, and it tells you, right, then you're like, okay, now I gotta make sure I don't do that, right? So yeah, that's what I like about OmniCoach. Even though it's repetitive a lot of the times, it nails it to you, and it just tells you need to fix this, right? So, but yeah, if you guys want a link to OmniCoach, you guys can look in the description below. I have a link there, so you guys can give it a shot and try it out. And but yeah, I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you guys so much for the support. And that's gonna be about it for this one. Thank you so much for submitting your video. Drake. It was interesting, and again, thank you. I really appreciate it. But yeah, again, let me know in the comments below whether or not you think this would help you, and if you like this kind of VOD review, or if you would rather have me just go through the entire VOD and also just use this on the side. But yeah, anyways, that's gonna be about it for me. Just want to say thank you guys for watching, and catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.